Hello everyone, and welcome back. This is going to be just a bonus lecture, I guess. I need to finish some of the details on this ray gun before we move on to the new things that I have planned for this week. So I figured I might as well record it, and I'll do a little bit of narration. There shouldn't be anything new covered. All the techniques I covered, I guess, a month ago now, when we last met, but a couple new things here using different recording software. So my screen capture keys are now just going to be in Blender, so you'll see them down here in the bottom left. If the size here or the placement isn't working for you, please let me know so I can make those adjustments before we go too far. But yeah, I'm just going to get right into it, and then I'll do a separate video or two covering the new stuff for this week. So, if you remember, this is what we're going for, and this is where we left off. So it's really going to be focusing on these little round bits and then the tubes that connect. If you remember, we will use curves and extrude the geometry from that and get these pipes very quickly. So here we go. I am still in Blender 2.81. I know 2.82 has come out, but for the sake of this class, I'm going to stick with 2.81. So we'll start with just this guy here. 8 should be enough. Oops. Scale, Shift, X, there we go. Apologize for the sound of the water heater in the background. My desk happens to be right next to it. So I'll extrude this all the way out, scale it down to the final size that I want, then I'll go back and add 2 edge loops, scale excluding the Z-axis. And I just saw a problem with the placement of my screencast keys. That's where that is, so let's move that real quick. Let's set the origin. I guess we'll just do this. That should be better. Whoops, I went too far. Oh, I just need to keep hitting it so that I have... That should be... Let's go 21. Alright, that should be good. Extrude this down. Actually, looks like that can stay pretty straight. Yeah, you can see that it's actually not even level with the background, so this is where some of that artistic license comes into play. I'll extrude this all the way out to here, I think. Then I'll go back and add my edge loops where I need them. I do it that way, so that I can go in the face mode here. Extrude, right click to keep it in the same spot, scale, Shift X to constrain it. Do the same thing over here. Extrude, right click, scale, Shift X. Okay. And then from here, oops. Looks like we need to actually scale this one down a little bit too. Like that. Yeah, that'll work. Okay, now I do have an end gun here on the end, but we can fix that after. So we'll extrude this out to here, and I'll add... I think we'll add 3 edge loops. I'm just going to select the middle one, turn on my proportional editing, and I'll do the spherical fall off. And then I will hit S, scroll down. Let's see. Oops. There we go. Shift X. And get something spherical. That looks good. Okay. And let's fix this. So I'm just going to do the knife cut tool here. Now I've got all quads, so I'm happy with that. We need to add in our control loops. Oops, turn off proportional editing with O. I don't need to be too exact here. Remember, the closer you get to the corner, the sharper that transition will be. So I can kind of check my reference, and maybe I want this one to be a little bit less sharp, so I'll keep that one there. Add two and scale them apart. We can check that in a second when I add the Subsurface Modifier. I want to get all this part done first before I do that. Something like that. It's a pretty smooth transition, so we can actually select this edge. We can do the offset edge slide tool as well, which is Shift Control R to do both at once. There we go. And then if you look at the bottom left, or actually, excuse me, top left, you can see edge slide, you see the value, and then you hit E to keep them even. They will stay the same distance apart on both sides. So do something like that, I think. I think I'll do the same thing here, so I'll select this edge loop, Shift Control R, hit E to keep them even, and yeah, there we go, something like that. And I'll add one here, just so that doesn't start bending too soon. That works. Go back into object mode, and then if we go back to our reference here, see that it's actually offset pretty far from the side there, and I've added this in the middle, so I will go into side view here, and actually I'm going to hit Control 3, Control number pad 3, so I can look at the back side of it, and I'll go something like that maybe. No, that can be lower. I think that'll work right there. Okay. And let's add in our Subsurface Modifier. Right click on it, shade smooth. So everything is pretty smooth there. This is maybe not as spherical as I'd like. Grab these edges. Put those in a little bit. Yeah, that's better. And then we can also add our Mirror Modifier. So right there. And we want to go in the Y direction here. If you remember, if you forget, it's up here on the top left. So I'm going to go in the Y direction. And in this case, it doesn't really matter what order these modifiers are in, because they don't need to connect. But you can't really see anything, and that's because it's mirroring it about the object origin, which is currently in the center here, so it's just mirroring it on top of itself. If I go into edit mode and move it in the Y direction, you'll see two of them separate. So I need to move this origin, and the way that I'll do that is with this 3D cursor. I'm going to go up to this view properties. So if you hit N, it'll bring that window up. And then where it says 3D cursor, I'm going to set the Y to 0. Then I'll go into object mode, set object, set origin to 3D cursor. And there we go. I could have also centered the 3D cursor by hitting Shift-C, but then it would place the origin all the way down there, and I'd wanted it somewhat close to the object itself. Cool, so that's done. Let's move on to the next piece, which I think will be this bracket here. So to do this bracket, I'm going to start with this piece here, and I'm going to line up this edge loop and this edge loop so that they follow that form, and then I'll be able to duplicate that mesh into its own object. It'll be in the right spot, and then extrude it from there. So I'm going to hit the number pad slash to go into local view. Sometimes it doesn't actually get rid of everything else, so I'm going to toggle that one more time. There we go. And so I'm going to select just these middle ones, SX0, make sure my point snapping is on. I'm just going to, it's on vertex, and instead of turning it on, I'm just going to hold Control when I move. So I'm going to hit GX and then hold down Control and snap that to those points. And then I'll select these, and I'm going to double tap G to slide them so it stays on that line. And then I'll hold down Control again. Yeah, it's not really working, so I will eyeball it. This one, we can just do GX, and then this one we'll just zoom in here, and yeah, that works. And the bottom looks good. So we'll do the same thing. Get out of local view here for a second so I can see which edge needs to do it. I think I'll slide this one over. Slide this one over. Again, just double tapping G there. And we'll make this edge the one that is vertical. So I'll start by sliding this to the right spot. And then GX, hold down Control. Something like that. Zoom in here. Doesn't have to be perfect. Just pretty close. Okay. And now we have this middle edge loop, which was fine before, but now, since both sides are straight, I would rather this one be straight too, so I'm going to hit X and dissolve the edges. Okay, so now these are continuous. Oops, go to edge mode. These are continuous edges, and then I'm just going to add in, we'll add in 2. Okay, so now, go back in the local view, you can see I've got this clean section, and I'm going to go into face mode, I'll go solid, and I think I'll hit C to use circle select and kind of paint the faces that I want to duplicate. I don't want to duplicate the bottom faces, but that looks pretty good. I'm going to hit C to bring up circle select again, middle click and drag, and deselect that bottom row of faces. Okay, so once I have that, I can hit Shift D to duplicate, P to separate by selection, and now I've got a second object here. Okay, go in edit mode on that. I'll go back to local view here for a second. And I've got a little bit of extra geometry that I don't really need. We'll slide that one up. I'm going to select this one with just Alt left click X and dissolve those edges. And the rest should be good for now. Select this bottom edge, get out of local view. And we're just going to extrude it down and around. If we check our reference, it should come down to probably about here. So that's going to be, yeah, to right about here. So I'll just hit E to extrude a couple times. Oops, actually before I do that, hit E to extrude, and just make sure we hit Shift X so it doesn't move in the X direction. And again, I'm just going to get it to the final point. And because we duplicated it, it still has our modifier stack, so it's got the mirror, it's got the shrink wrap, and it has the subdivision surface. So we're in a good spot in that regard. And even the vertex groups copied over as well. So let's see if we can bring that down a little bit more. I'm going to scale it in the Z direction to 0 so that it's, well, maybe not. Just a little bit. Flatten that out a little bit. Okay. And you see it's not really conforming very well, it just means we need more edge loops, so I'll add an edge loop there, and add an edge loop there. And we'll go into vertex mode, select all those vertices, go back to our vertex groups with the weight of 1, click Assign, and we need to help it out a little bit here. Oops. Okay. And now I'm going to add one more modifier. It's going to be a Solidify. We'll zoom in here. I collapse these. And let's bring that thickness into the negatives. I'm going to hold down Shift so you get a little finer control there. Okay, you can see how it's conforming nicely there. And we want to do even thickness, high quality normals. I think that will work. Yeah, and then just to keep things nice and sharp, let's add a couple edge loops here. On a wireframe for this one. And again, these vertices don't have to be exact because we are using the Shrinkwrap Modifier, but I like to be pretty close, because it just makes it a more accurate operation. But I think that works pretty well. Okay, on to the next thing. We've got this kind of tube holder happening here, so let's do that next. And see it's the width of this piece, so that'll be a good guideline here. We'll add in an edge loop here, and yeah, I think we'll slide that over a little bit. Slide that down. Same sort of thing. Select those faces. Shift D to duplicate. P to separate by selection. Go to object mode, and then it's here somewhere. I might need to select this in the outliner. I should also be naming things. This will be gun top tube holder. This is going to be, oops, gun rear capsule. And then this, oops, F2, is going to be gun rear capsule holder. Follow this naming convention because then it keeps all the similar parts close together in any list, including the outliner. Makes it a little easier for scene organization purposes. Okay, so I've got that now. And here, hit extrude, and then scale Shift X again. Give it some thickness there. Something like that. Give it 2 edge loops. Scale in part on the X-axis. And I'm going to go into local view. So we need to add those edge loops to the inside as well. Keep everything sharp. And then I'll do 2 on both sides here as well. Okay, so there's our tube. Now what we need to do, if we get out of local view here, check our reference. We've got this kind of cylindrical piece that comes down. You can see it better on this image here. So right here we've got the cylindrical piece that comes down and is basically welded to the top of this plate. So to do that, I'm going to start with a circle on the plate, and I'll extrude up and bridge to meet in the center. So, oops. Let's see, I'm going to select just these 2 pieces and then go into local view on both of them. And then from edit mode here, actually, I'm going to start here. And I'm going to add in an edge loop there to keep that centered. At this point too, I'm going to just apply the Solidify Modifier, because that is the form that I want it to be. We'll apply the mirror as well. Actually, no, I'm not going to apply that mirror. But I will apply the Solidify. Yeah, see, sometimes it doesn't like applying these out of order. So I'll get rid of the subsurface, and we'll apply the mirror, apply the shrink wrap, and then apply the Solidify. We're getting some weirdness here, which I don't love, so I'm going to quickly fix that, where I'm just going to, let's see. Okay. Double tap G, slide that back a little bit. And I see. Slide that up. Yeah, that's all we had to do. Cool. Okay. So now that I've done that, I can add that subsurface modifier back. And I'm going to select these 2 vertices, Shift S, and snap my cursor to selected. And I'll go back to the tube and add in a circle. We're going to set the vertices to 8. And then we'll scale it down. I'm doing it in edit mode so that it stays as the same object. Let's get out of local view, check our reference again. There we go. Okay, scale it down some more. That's good. And then I'm going to rotate this around the X-axis. We want to get it. Actually, let's do that. Let's see. I'm going to use another Shrinkwrap Modifier here. So I'm going to create a new Vertex Group. And we will call this bracket Shrinkwrap. Click Assign. Back to our modifiers. Add our Shrinkwrap. Use the dropper. And what happened there? don't know what happened there. Oh, I think I chose the wrong object. No, I didn't. Let's see, turn on proportional editing. I'm gonna move this down. Oops. Oh. See, move that down. No, that's not it. Alright, give me a second, I'll figure this out. Alright, took all of 5 seconds to realize that I forgot to add the Vertex Group. There we go, that's better. But I will move these individual vertices down a little bit just to, again, get them close. Cool. So, once they're there, I'm going to apply that Shrinkwrap Modifier. So those are in the right spot. And now I can extrude them up a little bit. Something like that. I'll extrude that up a little bit more. Just in the Z direction. And then we'll scale that down. And I'm going to use, if I right-click, I've got this Loop Tools add-on enabled. I'm going to use Circle just to make sure that that is a perfect circle there. It comes standard in Blender, but you need to go to Preferences, Add-ons, and make sure that it's enabled. I don't think it's enabled by default. Just check that box, and it'll be, and then you'll see it pop up in the Loop Tools menu. It's something that I find to be extremely helpful. Okay, and then hit Control number pad 3. I want to position this circle more or less centered. That'll work. Okay. And then I'm going to add a couple more. Edge loops, scale, Shift Z. Yeah. Maybe not. We'll just scale that down a little bit. We'll scale that down a little bit. Okay, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to right-click and make both of those circular. We need one more. This time I'm going to hit E to make sure it's even to the outside. Another one here. We can also right-click and shade smooth. And last thing is this underside here isn't quite as, it doesn't look as good as I'd like it to. So I'm going to add at least one, maybe two more edge loops here. Like that. I'm going to scale this one out a little bit. I'll select this inside one, extrude, and scale it in a little bit. This is going to give this kind of a subtle lip here. If we look at our Subsurface Modifier, if I bring that up, it's going to give it a more real feeling connection there. Alright, so now we just need to connect these two. So, go back into the side view here, or front view actually. I'm going to add in an edge loop there. Edge loop there. Actually, in order to keep these even, Control Shift R. I go right about there. So I'm lining these up. Gonna make the bridging easier. I'll go into local view again. Looks like I probably should have done more subdivisions on this piece here. So I think what I'll do, I'm going to turn on Cage on edit mode, bring this down. Yeah, that should do it. So I'm going to hit apply here. That works. So that just gave me a bunch more detail. It's a pretty heavy-handed way to do it, but I'm okay with that for now, because I can just go back and clean this up. So I'll select all the extra edges that I added down here. Oops. Get rid of those. X dissolve edges. Same thing here. I don't need that many edges down here. Although I don't hate what that's doing, so maybe I'll leave those. But I want to get back to 8 edges you see down here on the bottom left, or bottom right. I want to get back to 8 and 8. So then we go up here. I'm going to select these 4 faces. Hit X and delete faces. Okay. And I'm going to select this loop. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to slide these out a little bit. There we go. And then I'm just going to bridge them. Or just bridge, 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 bridge. Go into edge mode. There we go. And bridge. So it's not perfect yet. That's actually pretty horrendous looking, but we'll get there. I'm going to add in edge loop right here. Right click and again make that a circle. Go to wireframe here. Rotate that a little bit, bring it down. Okay. I think that part's going to work. Now I'm going to select the next loop up. Go to local, oops. It's kind of tough to see, but I'm going to select this loop here. And I'm going to slide it out. Slide it back in. And it's just going to kind of relax it a little bit. Slide this one down. Okay. And I'm going to add, say, 3 edge loops here. And I want to bring some of that contour back. Okay. Oops. Uh-oh. Think Blender might have just maybe crashed. Let me save it and hope. That was my screencast keys. Got messed up. Oh, but we're good. Okay. It's a close one. Make sure you're saving. Often. Okay, so we add another subsurface modifier on here. You can see that's going to be an issue, but we'll get to that in a second. And I think that's just, it just feels a little flimsy. So, okay. First is, you see all of this terribleness. That's just going to be a normals issue, so I'm going to select everything. I'll go up to mesh, normals, recalculate outside. That'll fix that. And then, yeah, this is why we don't want too many edge loops. I'm going to select every other, dissolve those vertices, or, excuse me, dissolve those edges. That's better. And I'm actually going to dissolve these as well. So I can go back here. Oops. Get a better form. Right click and circle. And add these two back. Actually, I'm going to slide it out and then scale it in. And then we'll make that a circle. I slide it out and then scale it in just so that it stays roughly in the center of where I want it to be. And make that a circle. I think I went too far with this one. So I'll slide it back and forth and that'll even it out a bit. Okay. Select this edge loop. I'm going to slide it down. Select this one. We'll just scale it out. Slide it down a little bit. Okay. That's better. And I think it's just, it might also just be too long. Well, let's see what it looks like on the model. Yeah, I don't love it. I'm also not sure what's happening here. I think my proportional editing screwed me up a little bit. I'm almost positive that's what happened. Oops, don't want those. Okay, so select those vertices, turn proportional editing back on, and make sure that this is set to connected only. That was my mistake before. And now I can move it up back where it needs to be. Okay. So I'm going to leave that right there just for the sake of time and move on. So I think what we'll do now is right here. Okay, so we're going to put that in place, add in a, we'll do a cylinder. Let's rotate it 90 degrees. Scale it down. And then we need enough geometry to be able to extrude these parts out. So I'm going to go to at least 12 here. 12 should be good. Okay, I'm going to hit Shift-C to just get the cursor out of the way. Scale that down a little bit. Just go back into object mode and go to side view. Yeah. There we go. Turn off proportional editing before I forget. Bring that forward. Okay. Now I'm going to select just this front face. Okay. And I'm going to hit I to inset it. It's right about there. Hit I to inset it again. And then in solid view, move it out a little bit. Maybe something like that. Looks good to me. I'm going to select the back face and just delete it because I don't need it. And I'll select this back loop. And actually, select both of those loops. You could also select the face loop. It'd be the same thing. I'm going to extrude it, scale it, Shift Y, so the depth doesn't change. That's good. Oh. Okay. That's because I did it with edges and not faces, so yes. You should select the faces. Alright, so we'll extrude that again. Shift Y. Oops. Scale Shift Y, there we go. Oh, did my screencast keys just turned off? Oh, that's annoying. I'll have to keep an eye on that and maybe try to find a better solution if that's going to keep happening. Alright. So that's kind of defining the outside of that form. I'm going to solid view here. I'm going to hit I to inset this one more time to get this nice loop. I'll insert one more. I'm going to go into vertex mode and use my knife tool. Oops. Let's make sure that we're on the vertice, or vertex, as it were. Just good habit to keep everything in all quads. There we go. And we'll add a couple of edge loops there. I'm going to keep this one sharp. I'll keep the other one a little bit softer. Oops. Okay. It also looks like there's maybe a little lip here. So let's add that. I'm going to add in an edge loop, move it almost right up to it, and select the one behind it as well, and just move it back in the Y direction. And I'll add one edge loop there. Again, I want this to be a little bit softer. Okay. And then I'm actually going to scale this out a little bit. Okay, so if we look at the top view, you can see it flares a little bit. And I'll add one more. And we'll scale this up just a little bit too, so it's got a little bit of a curve to it. Okay. And let's move on to this bit, which could be a little bit tricky, but I think we'll manage all right. Alright, so I did the thing again where I didn't start with enough geometry, because I don't want this shape to be extruded from the center. Well, I suppose I could. Yeah, let's do it. Never mind. Let's just go for it and see what happens. There's more than one way to do it. Alright, so I'll select that. Yeah, that should be good. That's it. E to extrude. Bring it up here to this point right there. We'll scale it down. Rotate it. Put that in position. And then we're going to use loop tools again. So select just the outside edges. Right click and circle. It's an extremely useful tool. And rotate that around the z-axis. Let's actually do this. We'll scale it along the x-axis so it's completely flat. Select all the vertices, right click, and make that a circle again. That's good, and then we can move that and snap that back in there. Okay. So move that up. And actually, we want this to be flat going straight across. So that's what I'm going to use as my guide. Select all those. G, Y, or GZ. And it looks like that'll be about even. I can select these. With those along the z-axis. Control 3. Okay. Now you can see it's going to be a little bit weird here because it's flat and so it's kind of shifting out to the side. It's definitely an odd shape, but I think that will work. So now we just need to ease this transition here. And to do that, just a couple more edge loops. This one. And I'm just going to move these bottom vertices. Same thing here. Try to keep this relatively even. So I guess we have to make a decision of what does this backside look like. If it's all enclosed or if it's just partially enclosed. I think partially is probably going to be alright. Yeah, it should be fine. Okay. And let's see. We also need to make sure this is conforming to the surface. So let's grab these vertices. Grab that one too. New Vertex Group. Call this just Shrinkwrap. New Modifier, Shrinkwrap. I'm going to target the body and use the Vertex Group. Let's see what it looks like. Move that in the Y direction. Oh. You know what helps when you create a Shrinkwrap modifier, or a Vertex Group, is to actually apply the vertices you selected. So let's try that again. Select those vertices. I made the group, but I didn't assign anything. So there we go. Now it's assigned. Now it's conforming nicely. Get out a local view. Okay. Let's move it back a little bit more. And I'm going to deselect those middle vertices. And I'm just going to get it close. And let the shrink Shrinkwrap Modifier do the rest. Oops. There we go. Okay, so I just have those 4 vertices selected. I'm doing that so that I can add one more. Maybe I won't add another edge loop. Yeah, maybe not. At least not right now, because I don't want to mess up this circular bit. But that being said, we can move this back and kind of even that out a little bit as well. Then we can select this. Move that back. Actually, I'm gonna just dissolve that edge loop and dissolve that edge loop so that I can fix this, and then I'll add them back to make sure they're smooth. Yeah, that works. That should work. Okay. So we'll add those back in. So go kind of there. Add this one right about there. I'm going to scale it along the x-axis to 0 and make that a circle as well. I want that to stay flat, so let's see. Move that down. Move that. Oops. Zoom out here. Alright, I'm going to have to do this one at a time. So, select this one, GZ, hold down Control, GZ, GZ, hold down Control. Okay. It's a little weird. I'll select this edge loop and I'll slide it back and forth a little bit. Try to smooth that out as best we can. And then now that I've moved it around, we'll snap those back in place. Okay. Scale this up a little bit. I think that'll work. I'll just extrude that out a little bit right to there. And one more to there. Select that face loop. Extrude, right click, scale, Shift X. And give that a lip. Alright, so we're kind of halfway done, but we're also at the same time most of the way done. Because we need to do this bottom half, but because this is symmetrical, we can just delete all of those faces and add in a mirror modifier. I want to go in the Z direction this time. Okay. Oh, you know what? If I hit N to bring up my properties, I go to Item. You can see the rotation has a X value. It's because this was rotated in object mode. So, we can either just go in the Y direction, but that Y direction is not actually the Y direction. It's not the global Y direction, it's the local, or it's the object Y direction, because it's rotated 90 degrees, so the Y axis is going to be 90 degrees off. So we could do that, but you could also, if we know we want this in the Z direction, in object mode, just go to Object, Apply, Rotation, and that'll fix it as well. So that's going to work for me. Make sure clipping is on. Okay. And then we'll add a Subsurface Modifier, of course. Turn on Optimal Display, right-click, Shade Smooth. And let's up that a little bit. So that's how it's going to render. And let's compare that to our reference again. It's okay. I think I just want to accentuate some of this a little bit more. So I'm going to select this face loop, and then hit Control number pad plus. Oops, minus, I went a little too far there. There we go. Just to there. And then I'm going to move it out in the Y direction. And then Control minus, shrink that a little bit more. Actually, I think that part is fine. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to select this edge here. But deselect those parts. Go around this side to deselect that one. And I'm going to move that out in the Y direction as well. Just sharpen that part up. That feels better. And I think I just want to grab these vertices here. Just move them up and in a little bit. Same with these. And I'm going to move these back as well. Okay, I think we'll call that good. Alright, up next, let's take care of this part down here. So this part I'm going to do a little bit differently. I'm going to build it first and then I'll put it in position. But it's just kind of like a slice of a cone with a little switch coming out of it, so it shouldn't be too terribly difficult to do. So yeah, like I said, I'm going to do this a little bit differently. I'm just going to turn off, oops, I'm going to turn off my reference. There we go. And I'm going to hit Shift-C to go to the center of my view. Hit 1 on the number pad. And we're going to add in a, we'll do a cylinder. And I'm going to go with 8 subdivisions. A depth does not need to be 2 meters. We can go like 0.2. That'll work. Okay. And again, I do have the reference up on my other screen so that I can refer to it. I'm not tied to it. I'm not bound to it, but it's a good thing to have just to make sure you're not going too far off base. So I'll just select these. I'm going to scale them in, and I'm just going for the general shape at this point. I'm not worried about size or position. Okay. Yep, that's about it. I'm also going to hit number pad slash to go into local view, so I can just worry about that. Yeah, okay. I'm going to inset that top face, and then I will inset that a little bit more. I'm going to select this face loop, extrude it down. Okay. And to keep these sharp, we'll add an edge loop there, we'll add an edge loop there, up there, down here. This bottom face, I'm going to inset that a little bit, and then I'm going to delete it, because that part's going to be up against the gun. And then we're going to extrude this up to about there, I think. Maybe a little bit more. Go to about there. Add in 3 edge loops, turn on my proportional editing again, and scale Shift Z so it doesn't scale in the Z direction. Oh, actually we just want the center one. There we go. Give that a spherical shape. And then hit O to turn that off. Control plus a couple times. Actually, I went one too many. I'll undo that. There we go. And I'm going to scale it in the Z direction. Make that a little bit more spherical there. And then scale Shift Z. Well, no, actually just scale that down. There we go. Get that a little closer to spherical. Oops. Alright, that'll work. Inset this a little bit more. Move it up. Go to the top view. And just make that all quads. And we can select that top middle vertex and move it up just a little bit. Now we need to get the little switch that comes out the side of it. So I'm just going to select these 4 faces. I'm going to hit I to inset them. And then I'm going to right click and make them a circle. Oop, okay. Did I have something else selected? No, it just got weird. Okay. So we'll go and just select the edges so it doesn't get weird again. Oops, hit the wrong button. Right click, circle, and hitting all the wrong things. There we go. Move it out a little bit. I will select the faces. Let's make sure I only have selected what I want. I'm going to extrude it out to, it looks like right about there is going to be right. We will scale that up. Extrude it out a little bit more, scale it back down. Add in our edge loops. looks like that's pretty sharp. There also appears to be a small... Can't tell if it's a cut in or if it's just like a lip. But I think I'd prefer it to be a cut in, so that's what I'll do. It's like Bob Ross, you can just make it whatever you want. Add a happy little cut. Although I seem to have hit the wrong buttons. There we go. Okay, so we're going to inset that. Scale it down. Oh, no, we're not going to inset that. Sorry. We're going to extrude that. Right-click, Scale, Shift-X. And there's our inset. It's a very minor detail, but I want it there, so I'm adding it. And we will add our edge loops there to make sure that that stays sharp. Now this is small enough where I'm not going to add two. One across each will be plenty. And then down here, we need to make sure that this stays smooth as well. I'm going to keep this a little bit smoother. And then we'll do that. I'm going to hit E to keep it even. There we go. Alright, moment of truth. We're going to shade smooth. And we're going to add our Subsurface Modifier. I like to go 2 levels in the viewport because I know, this is certainly fine because you know it's going to render like this, but my computer's powerful enough I can render it as much as crank that up a fair amount before it starts getting bad. This isn't as round as I'd like. You could actually make these 2 separate pieces and start from a sphere here, and it would probably look better, but this is a relatively small thing. And I've already taken probably way too much time on this. So, we're just going to... okay, we're going to do one last thing here. Can't help myself. I'm going to select that face loop, Control plus, and then Scale Shift Z. There we go. I'll scale that out a little bit more too. Okay, so we've got that. Now we can put it in place and scale it appropriately. So we'll turn our reference images back on. We also need to name this. This is going to be called, let's see, this would be the right side, gun, right, switch. So I have my empties visible, I can turn those off. We'll move this out in the Y direction. Go to edit mode, and I'm going to rotate it in edit mode. Go something like that. Somewhere around there. Okay. And now we can scale it down. Just go down a little bit more. And then in edit mode, I'm just going to select all these end vertices, S, Shift, X. Kind of take that taper back a little bit. It was a little too extreme. And now we can put it pretty close to in position. Like that. Just kind of looking at it from all views, making sure we're pretty close. Okay, that'll work. And then we're going to do the Vertex Group thing again. So I'll select that, Control plus, select that, and add in our Vertex Group. We'll call this Shrinkwrap. We're going to remember to assign it this time. I'm going to select the one past it. So the one up a little bit. I don't want this to be at full influence. We'll go 50% and assign that. Get out a local view and add our modifier. Target the gun body and set the vertex group accordingly. See, it's get this little elephant's foot effect thing. So we can try changing that to project, which makes it worse. Nearest vertex is a bad choice. And it looks like we're just going to be stuck with a little bit of elephant's footing. Again, the closer you get it, the better it'll perform, but I feel like I'm saying this a lot, but good enough. Okay, let's look at the other side of the gun now. What do we need to do for here? Looks like that's going to be super easy. And then we have this, and then a couple of little knobby bits, and then we'll get to the pipes. So let's start with this really easy one first. I'm going to do the same sort of thing with the cursor centered, Shift-C. I'm going to add in a cylinder. That's going to be fine. We're going to name it. And we'll call this gun right knob. You see that these two objects are in a different collection here. So I'm just going to select them both, hit M, and move them to the ray gun collection. I'm also going to click on this little like file box by the ray gun collection. That's going to make that the active collection. So now whenever I add another object, it will automatically be added to that collection. Alright, so back to this one. Go to edit mode. We will scale it down a little bit. Scale it in the Z direction a little bit. Select the top. And inset it also a little bit. Oops. There we go. -1. Okay, extrude it up. Looks like it needs to be a slight taper there. Something like that. And actually, it's kind of tough to tell. But I think if we scale this out a little bit, I'm going to add in, let's go to local view. I'm going to add in an edge loop there, add in another one right on top of it and scale it out. So now I've got this little secondary lip going on. I'll add in some edge loops here. I'm going to delete that. Actually, we're going to inset that face first. And we're going to delete it, just like we did with this switch. Add an edge loop there. While I'm here, I might as well add my Vertex Group now. Come on. Okay. We'll add those at 50%, and then we will add those at 100%. Okay. Oops. Wireframe, select everything. Move that up a little bit. Let's get out of local view so I can see my reference again. Yeah, I think we're actually pretty much there. There's maybe a little bit of a taper here, so we'll scale that out. That'll work. Now we just need to do this top face here. Alright, so we'll inset it. Inset it again. And then make it quads. this edge loop right there. Shade smooth. We'll add in our subsurface first. Okay. We'll get out of local view. We're going to move it out, rotate it around the x-axis. Control 1, Z. Pretty close. Rotate it Y. Whoop, rotate it X. Something like that. And I'm rotating it in object mode, because now if I want to adjust the size, I can select everything, scale, double tap Z. There we go. Scale everything down a little bit. Looks like my taper might be a little bit extreme. Okay. And then, oops, move it in the Y direction. So, the way I'm positioning this is, I know I need to rotate it, but I'm going to line up the center of it with the surface. And then I can rotate it, and that'll get it real close. Now we can add our Shrinkwrap Modifier. Okay, so there's our knob there. And the last one we need to make, aside from those things, which will be pretty easy, is this one. Yeah, which should also be more of the same. So, let's see how fast we can do this one. Add that, and our cylinder, edit mode, rotate it 90 degrees. I'm going to delete, well, we'll insert that face first and then delete it. Select this face. We'll insert it a bunch. That looks, oops, about right. We will inset it again. Let's say to there. Pull that out. It's actually, we can push that in. Same sort of effect. Okay. Alright, I'm going to local view for here for a minute. Select those faces. Something like that. That's probably too much. That feels better. Okay. That looks pretty good. So with that center face, we're going to inset that to about there. Okay. And then once more to about there. Select this, extrude it in. Now try to work in solid mode a little bit more so you can see what's going on. I know it can be tricky to follow in wireframe mode when you're not the one controlling the camera. I know it can be disorienting. Okay, I'm going to add in my Subsurface Modifier now. Shade it smooth, make sure I'm more or less on the right track. That looks pretty good. And then I'll disable it in the viewport, just so I can check on it when I need it. Okay. So it looks like I'm going to have that come out a little bit more. So I want a side view here, wireframe, select all of these vertices, and move them out. Something like that. Select this edge, and I'm going to dissolve the edge, and I'll add it back in. I'm just going to add one right there, add one right there. Okay. And we'll need to add these ones as well. Okay. Okay, so now I'll do the little pokey bit on the left there. So we'll select these faces. And this is why I added these edge loops first, so I would have that separation. It looks like it just extrudes out into a circle at the end. So we will, let's see, yeah, okay. Extrude it to there, SX0, oops, extrude it to there, and I'm going to deselect that center vertex, right click and make it a circle. So now I can scale it down. Scale it up a little bit. That works. Whoops. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Make that even. Okay, I like that. I'll select these faces and inset them a little bit. Cool. And check our smooth preview. That's looking nice. Now we just have to get the switch that comes out at the end there. Okay, so that's going to be, select this face, I'm going to inset it. You see this in the wireframe. Okay. So we'll inset it, then we will extrude it out about there. And I want a little bit of clearance on that switch, so I'm going to set the bottom of it to about there. Yeah, that works. And then I'm going to select this, actually just these two faces here. We will extrude them out. It won't line up exactly, but that's okay. And then let's take this edge and we're going to slide it in to there. I'll slide this one in to there. Add an edge loop to keep that sharp. Add two edge loops here. Turn that Subsurface Modifier back on. That looks pretty good. I do want to tighten this up a little bit. That seems a bit looser than I would like it to be, and we can check our reference on that too. Yeah. Turn that off, going to local. Alright, so I'm going to select that face loop, Control plus, and we're going to scale that down. And then I'm going to select these two face loops, and I'm going to scale them up. Hold down Shift, so I've got a little more control over it. And then these two edges don't seem like they're aligned very well anymore, so I'm going to dissolve those. See how we're doing. That's better. Yeah, I think that's probably good enough. Cool. So there's our switch. Get out of local. Actually, stay in local view here for a second. Set up our Vertex Group. So these are the vertices that are going to be touching. Assign 100%. Then this one I'm going to assign at half weight. Okay. Get out of local view. Looks like from this side we're in a pretty good position. Let's look at it from the top. I'll do it like that. Actually, do that. Yeah. Let's rotate that. Okay, I think that should be good. So let's add our Shrinkwrap Modifier. Okay. Now I would like this to be a little bit more contoured. So I'm going to do some manual positioning because I don't want it to be quite so long of a throw there. So I'll select the top and the bottom just to keep it. Actually, it's not going to be symmetrical, so we'll just do it kind of one at a time. So right about there. I select it in wireframe to make sure I get everything. Yeah, that already looks a lot better. I'm going just until this last vertex here is touching the surface. That's my guideline there. I think this is probably the most just full-on modeling I've shown on YouTube. I hope it's helpful. And I was going to do it anyway, but I figured I might as well record it so you could see it. Alright, so there's our switch. This is looking pretty cool. It's looking like a real thing. These details make a difference. And you can see we're getting a pretty wide variety of shapes and forms with the same 5 or 6 different tools. There's not a whole lot else to it. Alright, so Let's do these pointy bits here real quick, and then we will move on to the pipes. So I'm going to select this, and with this whole ring selected, oops, I'm going to hit Shift S, snap cursor to selected, go back into object mode, and add in a circle from there. And I'll stick with 8. Go into edit mode on that, scale it down, rotate it so it's about even with the sphere there. And I'll move it out there. I'm going to keep the pivot point in the center, so that's why I'm moving this in edit mode and not object mode. Okay, scale it down a little bit, something like that. I'll extrude it out in the yeah, that should work. Oops. I want this to stay straight, so I'm going to undo a couple of times. I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees. And then I'll rotate it back afterwards. Scale it down a little bit. Alright, so we're going to extrude it, X direction. Extrude it some more to about there. Scale it down. And then it looks like we've got, let's see. So if this is this line, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'll add 4 in there. And then I'm going to select these two edges, them over. Then we will extrude those, scale, Shift X, scale that way down. Okay. And then we'll select this end here. Yeah, let me check my reference. Okay. Go out to there. Actually, before I do that, extrude, scale that down a little bit. A little bit more. Okay. Extrude that out. Extrude it out again. Add in 3, select the center one, turn on proportional editing. Scale, Shift X, scroll down. Okay. And now we need to fill this in. So we will fill that. Fill that. I'm going to add an edge loop there. And then I'm going to select this vertex, shift that one, right click, merge at last, and that'll snap that right in there. Alt M is the shortcut, if you prefer shortcuts. Okay, that works there. Now we just need to add in our control loops. Nope, not there. Turn off proportional editing. So we'll add in one there, Go in there. I'm not going to add any on these because I want those to stay round. But I want the insides to stay sharp. Okay. Got that. We'll keep this a little bit sharp as well. And then this inside piece, I'm going to extrude, right-click, and scale it down. Okay. So let's go into vertex mode, add in our vertex group. Set that to 1 and assign it. We'll add that in there. Set that to 0.5 and assign that. Okay. So I think we're good there. I'm going to shade smooth. Add in our Shrinkwrap Modifier. Target that. We're going to name this. What did we call this? We called this Gun Top Sphere. So we'll call this Gun Top Sphere. I don't know. Call this a knob as well. Knob 1. Go to side view. And because our origin is still in the center, you can just rotate that around. That'll look nice. Add in our subsurf. Okay, it looks like we need to add in one more edge loop. Okay. And then I'm going to hit Shift D to duplicate it, keep it in the same spot, and then rotate it around up there to make that one. You can see the form is a little bit different, so we can go into edit mode and make some quick changes there. I'm going to select all of those, G, double tap, oops. There we go, X I guess is the right direction here. Bring that way down. Bring that way down. It's not going to be exact, but still pretty good. Okay, so that's all done. As this video continues to, it's going to be a 3-hour video, but why not? All right, so let's do the knobby bits, shall we? Or not the knobby bits, the pipey bits, the pipes. So we'll start with this one. And I'm just going to shift right click to put the 3D cursor more or less in the right position. Okay. Shift A, add curve. And we will go with a path. Okay. And we can go to edit mode on that. So now what I want to do is I want to snap the ends to where they're going to be. So I'm going to go into this object, snap my cursor there, and then go back here, select that, Shift S, selection to cursor. Okay. I'm going to do the same thing with the other end. So I'll select this object here, and you can see I didn't make that all quad. So let's do that real quick. Can't see which one. There we go. Okay. Also, while I'm at it, I'm going to inset that just a little bit. Okay. Now select that center vertex, Shift S, cursor to selected. And then we'll go back to our curve, which is right there. Edit mode, select the endpoint there, Shift S, selection to cursor. Okay. And now we've got 3 midpoints that we can play around with. Let's look at our reference here. Make sure we're doing this right. Alright, so it's going to come straight out a little bit, turn down, and then straight in. So, to do that, I'm going to select the second one. I'm going to snap this to the cursor as well, and then I'll just move it straight out with X. Actually, probably should have done it with a Bezier curve, but that's okay. Move that out. Select this. We'll select this one first. Snap the cursor there. Snap this. Move that out. Okay. You know what? I think I am going to redo this with Bezier curves. You're going to get a little bit more control over it than this path. So I'm going to delete that and add in a Bezier curve. Yeah, I like that better. Okay. So we'll select this. Snap that to the cursor. I'm also going to scale it down, scale those handles down. Okay, go back here. Snap the cursor there. And there we go. And we scale that down as well. Alright. So now, in order to keep those straight, I'm going to move that, and then I'm going to extrude that in the X direction. Snap that back. And we need to just clear this rotation, or fix the rotation. So that it's going out straight. Oops. There we go. Alright, we'll do the same thing over here. Snap the cursor there. Move that out. Extrude it. Snap it back there. Okay. Alright. So we move that there, and this can move there. And we can scale these handles to get exactly where we want to be. Okay. Looks like this needs to move in a little bit. We'll check from the top view. Make sure things are staying in a line. And I want a little bit more of a curve here. So I'm going to scale this handle up a little bit. Scale this one. Oops. Scale that down though. Okay, there we go. And now let's go to our curve properties, and let's go to Bevel Depth. Oops, not bevel. I always think it's bevel. It's geometry. Extrude. Oh, it is bevel. Right, hold on. Alright. I'm back. I'm not sure what was causing the weirdness, but I selected all the control points and clicked smooth, and that seemed to figure it out. I don't, yeah, like I said, I don't know why, but it is bevel depth is what you want to control. And we want to go just slightly smaller than this. Select this, Okay. Gonna rotate it down like that. Rotate it back a little bit. Same thing up here. I think there's definitely a rotation issue there, that's for sure. And the smoothing also moved that out of line, so move that. Aha! So that's what it was, is something with how this is behaving. Flattens it out. So we might just need to add in, I'll select both of those, right click and we'll subdivide it. And now I should be able to, hopefully. Yeah, that seems to more or less protect it from getting too weird. There we go. Okay. Scale that down. We'll scale this down. There we go. Alright. But yeah, we need to bring this depth down. Let's go like 0.025. That looks pretty good. It's not as centered here as I would like it to be. So let's go back here and snap that. Okay. Let's bring this down a little bit. That seems to help. Okay. Scale that down a little bit more. Let's... There we go. That was the issue. This is just the rotation. So I can select this again. G, Y. Hold down Control to snap it in line. So that's nice and straight. Okay. So the main problem is I didn't have enough control points, and that was getting flat. So I added this center one. That really seemed to help. Scale that down a little. Scale this up a little. And I get more or less a right angle there. Same thing here. And okay, we need to go down more. Snap it to that. We'll move that over. Something like that I think will work. Aha, there we go. That was flipped over. That will make a big difference. I'm guessing that something similar is probably going on over here, but that seems like it's in better shape. Alright. So let's just look at it from all angles and make sure that... Yeah, so we don't want to be intersecting there. Let's get that down just a little bit. Okay. So I think we're going to call that good. Yeah, that works. Alright, so let's move on to the next one, and that's going to be... this one right here. And actually, I think what I'm going to do is because this video is getting so long, that's the process. I will pause it, do the last 3 of these, 3 or 4 of them, and then come back and finish it up. I actually do want to make one note here. So I did just duplicate this curve to make the second one, but if I want to snap to this face here, I need to go to the modifier stack and subdivision, click this 4th button here, which is on cage. It'll show the subdivision surface across the mirror modifier, and now I can snap my cursor there. Oh, let me turn that on mirror as well. Okay, maybe not. It should, but it doesn't want me to, and I don't really want to apply the mirror. Well, you know what? I can apply the mirror modifier. I'll just save a different version here. Save. And then I will make sure you apply from the top down. And now I should be able to... there we go. That'll work. Alright, I'll be back. Okay, so I am back, done with all of the pipes, the tubes. Same process all the way through. I also made this gauge real quick. I didn't think it really needed to be shown because it was the same process as before, but that is also there now. So I'm ready to basically apply the or convert the curves to polygon mesh and do the last couple of details. Before I do that though, just in case at some point I decide I want to adjust the path of these, I'm going to quick make a backup of these. So I'm going to select all of them, Shift D to duplicate, and move them to my backup layer so I can get back to them if I need to without having to rebuild everything. Well, once I have done that, I can select my object, and then I can go to convert to mesh from curve. I do that, I hit tab, and you can see now I have a lovely all quad mesh in the exact same spot as my initial curve. So I can, again, I'm pretty sure you can select multiple. I don't see why you wouldn't be able to, but let's find out. Convert to mesh. Beautiful. Cool. So now everything is mesh. I can also go up here and name things. I didn't do that before. And I'm going to use the batch rename. So the way this works is you select everything you want to rename, and then it's Control F2, bring up your batch rename, and I'm going to, it's just do a find and replace action. So type in Bezier curve, and I want to replace that with, we'll call it gun pipe. So I do that and click OK, and now you can see the version numbers are still there, but it replaced Bezier curve with gun pipe. So it's a helpful thing. And so I applied those and didn't leave them as curves because I want to add a little bit of extra detail here. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to select, let's see, probably just the first 2. And I'm going to hit E to extrude, right click to keep it in the same spot, and then scale Shift X. Just give that a little bit of extra detail there. That'll be good. And then I'm going to slide that one over, and we'll bring that in, and we can slide that over. If I was being really picky, there's more edge loops here than I really need, so I might select maybe 2 out of every 3. Yeah, something like that. And just dissolve those edges, because I don't need that many. I'll get rid of that one too. I'm not going to take the time to go through, but it's not a terrible practice. But I will go through the rest of these and do the same thing. So I'm just going to E to extrude, right click, scale, Shift X. And then add a couple of control loops there. Okay. And I'll go through and do that on all of them, and I'll be back. On something like this, where it's snapping to a complex curve, this is where the Shrinkwrap Modifier will come into play again. So we will select, go to local view here. We'll select those, add in, there we go. Add in our shrink wrap, and we're going to call this shrink wrap right switch. Click assign, and then we'll add in our Shrinkwrap Modifier. That's pretty good. That's a little bit skewed. We'll do that. We need to add in our edge loops here. And our Subsurface Modifier as well. And that's not great. I should probably adjust this a little bit more. I'm going to leave it for now. Again, just for the sake of time, and I'll be right back. Okay, the last little thing before I finish up here, I was just making a little bracket for this gauge, and I just duplicated the faces from this pipe, extruded them out, and now I'm extruding a couple faces back up the backside. I want these to be sharp, but I don't want to add in any additional edge loops. So instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of these vertical edges. There'll be 12 of them. Oops, come on, there we go. I'm going to wireframe real quick and make sure I don't have anything else selected. I think we're good. Okay. And actually I'm going to grab these as well. I'm going to right click and edge crease. You can see Shift E is a shortcut for that. I'm going to crease them up a bit. There we go. And I think that will work well enough. Okay. And then I'm going to select my gauge. I'm going to select this vertex in the back. Snap the cursor there, go into object mode, and set origin to 3D cursor. I'm going to do the same thing here. Origin to 3D cursor. And move it in the Y direction and just snap it right on there. Okay, so that'll be that. If you look at the reference, you can see there's some additional straps and little rivets and things. I'm not gonna worry about that on camera. I think this is enough, and if we hide our reference, center the cursor, I think we've got a pretty good looking ray gun. So I'll leave that here, and then the actual kind of new material this week, I'll talk a little bit about what some material stuff. We're not going to get into texturing with this. We just kind of, with the obvious shifts to the format of the class, we're going to just kind of skip over any texturing, move on to that next semester, and focus on materials and lighting this week. Okay, that's it.